Today, Matt and I are going to be bonding in one side of Bulkhead 8, which is sitting behind me, and that is going to be in the cockpit. It's the forward-facing bulkhead of our seat, and then just behind it, where the other line of unidirectional is where the aft part of that seat is. But because that really big transom piece that we received in the second container, the one that's the whole width of the boat, kind of like slides over that and locks together, these things have to be absolutely precise, and unfortunately we can't do really some like dry fits or test runs because that transom piece is so big. Like when it comes in, it's going on. So Matt and I have to do a bunch of measurements to make sure that these bulkheads today are going to get placed in and then be exactly where they need to be, because there's no moving them.
After 8 years of the nomadic life, involving crossing oceans in a 34-foot Sabre, refitting an aluminum boat, and then taking that to the Arctic Circle, we're back at it again with a brand new build. This is Matt, and I'm Jessica. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and join us every week as we start our newest project of building a 42-foot catamaran from the ground up.
So if you can see, we have our laser level out. We were using that last night after the sun went down to put these lines on the hull floor here and the sides of where they're supposed to go. And in those lines, that's where the aft part of each bulkhead is going to sit. So the thickness of the foam will just go forward towards the foredeck from that point. We have the measurements from Max Cruise on where all the measurements are supposed to be and the distances between bulkheads. So after we aligned everything last night and took measurements, we were right on track. But right now we're going to go out to the transom and then take measurements from there too, to make sure that when that piece slides on, it's matching these numbers of where we're going to have the bulkheads in place.
$98.5.
Gonna have to go in it from the inside.
Alright. So what are the areas that you are measuring right now, once you can gain access?
It is the front lip, or actually the aft lip, I guess, of the boat that goes right over the transom edge. So that is our furthest aft piece. And then the bulkhead, so bulkhead 9, is going to go against this side. So I need to measure from here to there just to confirm that I have exactly the right distance. So there's not a big gap in between here, and there's also, of course, it's not too tight that it won't go over that lip. With any molded piece, you know, it's hard to get it so it's within like a millimeter or two of the specs. So just going through and making sure that this mold is exactly the way that it is in the plans. Because we're just basing everything off the plans. But when they have the extra thickness here for the foam and the extra glass and stuff, there's a pretty good chance that it's another couple millimeters wider or narrower than what the plans actually show.
Yeah, 985 to the corner.
Okay. So it is 98.5 on both sides. That looks right. Yeah, that's right.
So that's the distance between our two bulkheads?
Yep. Bulkhead 8 will press up against this side. Bulkhead 9 will fit within there, so it's got to fit kind of like a glove, straight down on top of this. And then we'll bond this face to that, the backside, or actually the front side of bulkhead 8, backside of bulkhead 9, and then this lip kind of way back here is what we'll see on the transom, so that'll be the back edge of the deck. What is this? This is like the 4th time we measured this?
I think so.
5th time, something like that. I think I've been out here at least a half dozen times, if not a dozen times, measuring it, just confirming, write it down, then come back, look at it again, and
You know what they say, measure half a dozen times, glue once.
yeah, still screw it up somehow. Think that's good? Success! Leg up.
I'd say it's still right on that line.
That's almost going to be pulled in, that's going to be pushed. But it might be the fact that it's not level over there.
Oh, yeah. Do you want me to kind of kick that back?
Well, let's go over there.
So right here on the bridge deck, you can see it's staying pretty straight with its line, but once we get down to the hull, it needs a little tweaking. So I think we're going to address this part first. And get the aft end of this bulkhead to sit right on those lines. What have we got here?
Perfection.
Perfection.
Oh.
Totally plumb.
So what we had to do is there's slight warping in this. There's a slight little bend in here. The idea was we really don't want to glass that in. Even though it's up in this area, I still think anything we can do to try to get that out of it. When we put that aft section on there, we'll straighten it out as well and glass it that way. But put this bar against it just to keep everything absolutely perfectly aligned. We did that on one of the other bulkheads and it worked out really well. Put the cleats in to hold it from this direction. And then because we're glassing this side, we can't actually have cleats along there because we need to be able to glass it. In any area that isn't pressing against our clamps that are actually pushing that direction, if we tried putting clamps over on the other side, of course it would get in the way of when we're glassing, when we're putting those tapes down. So what we do is just screw in, use that as a mounting point, and then screw into here, into this bulkhead, and we can pull it this direction. So we can get ourselves so we're perfectly level, up and down, right down our line, from side to side, transverse. I think we have it. I think this is going to be the right area. So again, we're only glassing this side today, and then tomorrow we'll come around and clean this up and do the side here after we remove the cleats.
Yesterday did not go quite as we expected. We did manage to get all of the aft side of Bulkhead 8 glassed in, but the weather here, we had a wonderful kind of like a cool spell where temperatures were about 8 to 9 degrees lower than normal, so we were getting longer work times when we had been glassing in other areas. And so once the temperature skyrocketed back to its usual high yesterday, we kind of forgot about that and things started curing a little faster, which means that we were just rushing. I had the time lapse going, but I did not get the chance to actually show any of what we were doing because I was just constantly running. We were mixing much smaller batches of resin as we went. So hopefully we started earlier in the day today to do, we're going to do the forward side of Bulkhead 8, not on the bridge deck where the gel coat is, but just where it dips into the hulls through the chamfered panels. So hopefully I can capture a little bit more of that, and hopefully we get some longer work times. And you can see Matt has taken out the blocks that were holding it in yesterday because now it should be nice and stiff and will not move when we go to work on this side. She's in there really well now.
That was all about 2 seconds.
We're learning right now that Matt can't be held responsible for prep work because he messes it up.
I sure do.
I was going to say yesterday that he's like the surgeon and I'm the nurse, and like I was just like prepare everything for him as he does a skilled labor, but apparently he can't scrape off a squeegee without ripping his glove.
Well, that is like the surgeon and versus the nurse. The nurse does all the work, and
I know, I'm the nurse.
yep.
Anyway, we are about to start glassing the starboard side here, so I have just mixed up 2 containers with 8 ounces. By keeping them separate, we're hoping that they don't start to kick too fast. Again, we're doing this before lunch, so hopefully it's not going to be too hot today.
Sure, it's not hot at all.
It's not.
As I'm sweating, pouring down my face.
Matt's debating putting on his cooling vest right now, as it's like 79 degrees in here.
It is hot. It is
So-
not 79.
I don't know. But, so we'll do one side, we're going to do the fillets and then go straight into glassing, and then we'll switch to the other hull and do the same thing. So, wish us luck that it goes better than yesterday.
Got it. Nowhere but up.
Nowhere for, yeah, yesterday was a fail. And it's going on.
It's hot.
Well, hey, you have it, so may as well use it.
I know. It is very, very nice to have. And it does match, kind of.
Look at you.
Blue and blue. I mean, that's as close as I get to matching. You know. So if you've ever seen these things, they're phase changing, so they're not just ice packs. They stick at like 56 degrees or something like that, so it's not 32 or whatever. It's not really cold.
It's not going to give you hypothermia.
Yeah, it's not going to give you hypothermia. But and they last, so they stay in this form basically for, in this weather, probably 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours I can get out of them. But it just does a really, really good job cooling you down. Really nice setup. You just have to fit them really tight.
Next time, I'm going with the bigger bag. Before we lay the first piece of glass down, what Matt does is goes over the surface with just a coat of resin to kind of prep the area and make sure that it's going to soak it up from both sides. Got all my numbered pieces here. Keep it in order. So as you can see, Matt has laid it with about a 1.5 inch overlap, or 1.5 inches going from the fillet. And after that, he'll put one on the other side, also with 1 inch going the other way, so it has a nice spread. And after that, lastly, we're going to put a third piece of glass that goes right down the center between the two.
So you can see there the last piece is splitting the middle of where the original two went down.
And lastly, our metal roller, which will work out any air bubbles left in there. I would like to be telling you right now that we have finished both sides, but something is different. And at first I thought it was the weather because everything is just kicking so fast. So we started working in smaller portions. We went from 12 ounces of resin down to 8, still having issues, went down to 4, still having issues. And so we're wondering if it's the new brand of vinyl ester resin that we switched to. But regardless, we're not going to attempt that side right now. It's going to have to be like a midnight thing or just before sunrise once things are a lot cooler as we try and get this figured out, because there's a lot of work left to do and we can't be messing up and having things kick too soon like we are. It's just going to end up being a lot more work in post with fairing, and we don't want that. I have to say that when I am not out on the water, I love watching things like this come in. It looks so dark and so ominous, and so I'm gonna go sit on my bow right now with a beer and just watch the show come in.
Japan.